Today, Switzerland is known for its neutrality, strong economy, and breathtaking alpine landscapes. It is home to world-class banking, cutting-edge technology, and one of the highest standards of living anywhere on Earth. But the Switzerland we know today is the result of thousands of years of history. Long before it became a stable and prosperous federation, this mountainous region was inhabited by prehistoric farmers, conquered by the Roman Empire, divided by medieval feudal powers, and eventually united by small Alpine communities determined to defend their independence. In this video, we're going to explore the history of Switzerland from the ancient world all the way to the modern era, tracing the major events and turning points that shaped the country as it exists today. Human history in Switzerland stretches back far beyond recorded history. Archaeological evidence suggests that humans were living in the region as early as 150,000 years ago. As the last ice age ended, early hunter-gatherer communities settled in the valleys and lakeshores of the Alpine region. By around 5500 BC, farming communities began to develop across the Swiss plateau. These early societies built wooden houses, often on stilts over lakes, and cultivated crops while raising livestock. Over time, these early agricultural societies developed into more complex Bronze Age and Iron Age cultures. By the first millennium BC, much of the region was inhabited by Celtic tribes. The most prominent of these tribes were known as the Helvetii. They controlled large parts of what is now Switzerland and maintained a network of settlements and trade routes through the Alpine valleys. But the Helvetii's independence would not last long. In 58 BC, the Helvetii attempted a mass migration westward through Gaul. This movement brought them into conflict with the expanding Roman Republic. The Roman general Julius Caesar defeated the Helvetii during his campaigns in Gaul, and the territory that is now Switzerland became integrated into the Roman world. Under Roman rule, the region underwent dramatic transformation. Roman engineers constructed roads that connected the Alpine passes with the broader Roman trade network. Towns were established, including Aventicum, which became one of the most important Roman settlements in the region. The Romans built temples, baths, amphitheaters, and administrative centers. Latin language and Roman culture spread throughout the region, leaving lasting influences that are still visible today, particularly in the Romance languages spoken in parts of Switzerland. For nearly 4 centuries, the region remained part of the Roman Empire. But as the Roman world began to collapse in the late 4th and 5th centuries, new powers moved into the Alpine territory. With the decline of Roman authority around the 5th century, Germanic tribes began to settle in the region. 2 major groups emerged as dominant. In western Switzerland, the Burgundians established their kingdom. In the eastern regions, the Alemanni settled and gradually expanded across the Swiss plateau. The German language, which eventually evolved into the Swiss German dialect spoken across much of the country. By the early medieval period, the region became part of the Frankish Empire, particularly under the rule of Charlemagne around the year 800. Christianity spread through monasteries and bishoprics, which became important centers of education and political authority. However, the collapse of the Carolingian Empire in the 9th century fragmented political control across the region. By the High Middle Ages, the territory of modern Switzerland formed part of the Holy Roman Empire. Political power in the region was held by a mixture of feudal lords, bishops, monasteries, and noble families. Among the most powerful of these rulers were the Habsburg dynasty, who sought to expand their control over the Alpine territories. At the same time, the mountain valleys of central Switzerland were becoming increasingly important trade routes. One of the most important was the Gotthard Pass, which connected northern Europe with Italy. The communities living along these routes began to value their autonomy and control over local affairs. This desire for independence would soon lead to one of the most important events in Swiss history. In 1291, representatives from 3 Alpine regions, Uri, Schwyz, and Unterwalden, formed a defensive alliance. This agreement is often considered the founding moment of the Old Swiss Confederacy. The alliance was created primarily to resist attempts by the Habsburgs to exert greater control over the region. Over the following centuries, the Confederates fought several key battles against external powers. One of the most famous early victories occurred at the Battle of Morgarten in 1315, where Swiss fighters defeated a Habsburg force in a narrow mountain pass. Additional cantons gradually joined the alliance, expanding the Confederation and strengthening its position. By the late Middle Ages, the Swiss had developed a reputation as formidable soldiers, particularly because of their infantry tactics using long pikes and halberds. The Confederation reached the peak of its military expansion in the late 15th century. However, this expansion came to an abrupt end in 1515 at the Battle of Marignano, where Swiss forces were defeated by the French. This defeat marked a turning point. Switzerland largely abandoned territorial expansion and instead focused on internal development. During this period, Switzerland also became deeply affected by the Protestant Reformation. The reformer Huldrych Zwingli led a Protestant movement in Zurich, while other cantons remained firmly Catholic. Religious tensions sometimes erupted into armed conflict between cantons, shaping Swiss politics for generations. In 1648, the Peace of Westphalia, which ended the 30 Years' War in Europe, formally recognized Switzerland as independent from the Holy Roman Empire. Despite this independence, the Swiss Confederacy remained a loose alliance of semi-independent cantons rather than a unified nation. Each canton maintained its own laws, government, and military forces. Switzerland's independence was disrupted in 1798 when French revolutionary forces invaded the country. The French established the Helvetic Republic, a centralized state modeled on the political system of revolutionary France. This system abolished many traditional cantonal powers, which made it deeply unpopular among many Swiss communities. Recognizing the instability, Napoleon Bonaparte later introduced the Act of Mediation in 1803, restoring much of the cantonal autonomy while maintaining certain reforms. Switzerland remained under strong French influence until Napoleon's defeat. During the second half of the 19th century, Switzerland underwent rapid industrialization. Railways connected remote mountain regions to major cities, factories expanded, and industries such as textiles, machinery, and banking began to flourish. Switzerland's central location in Europe and its political stability made it an attractive center for international finance and diplomacy. It is also, midway through the 19th century, became a modern federated nation, the same we have today. During World War I, Switzerland maintained strict neutrality but mobilized its army to defend its borders. Economic hardship and political tensions led to a major general strike in 1918, reflecting social unrest in the aftermath of the war. During World War II, Switzerland again remained neutral. Surrounded by Axis-controlled territory, the country maintained a policy of armed defense while carefully navigating diplomatic and economic pressures. The Swiss military prepared extensive defensive fortifications in the Alps to deter invasion. After World War II, Switzerland experienced strong economic growth and rising prosperity. The country became a global center for banking, finance, pharmaceuticals, and international diplomacy. Swiss cities such as Geneva became home to major international organizations. In 1971, Switzerland granted women the right to vote in federal elections, marking an important milestone in the country's democratic development. Today, Switzerland remains known for its neutral foreign policy, decentralized political system, and high quality of life. From prehistoric lake dwellings to a modern global economy, the history of Switzerland is a story of resilience, independence, and adaptation. Small Alpine communities gradually formed alliances, defended their autonomy, and built a federal system that continues to shape the country today. Understanding this history helps explain why Switzerland values neutrality, local democracy, and political stability so deeply. And it shows how a small mountainous region in the heart of Europe became one of the most successful and stable countries in the modern world.